What's up everyone? Today we are going to be looking at the balance changes that we're eventually going to see in the main game. So this is a document that the developers of the game have shared, and it basically shares all of the changes that will be made into the main build of Super Auto Pets eventually. And my aim for this video is going to be to firstly just review the changes, make you aware of them, and secondly I will also give my personal opinion on some of them and basically discuss if I think they will be good or not for the balance of the game. So let us begin with this new mysterious pet they will be adding. They still have not decided the name of it, it's still question marks for now. But basically it is a tier 1 3-3, which sounds very good, but when you read its ability it is end turn, give the nearest friend a head spooked until the next turn. And just as a reminder, spooked is the same thing as weakness, but instead of receiving 3 extra damage you only receive 1 extra damage. So I think it's a pretty good new unit. It's added to the unicorn pack in particular, but you can also play it at customs as well. So yeah, I think like you can put it up at the front line, so it will be a 3-3 with no downside. It has to compete with stuff like the Bunyip and the Mermail still, so it's not the best tier 1 I think, but it's pretty good, and I think it's a beneficial change for us to see it in Unicorn Pack. As a whole, I think Unicorn Pack is getting a big buff with this balance patch, so props to you if you are a Unicorn Pack main, you will be very happy to see this update. So next up we have a change to the fairy ball, which is the spawn out of the fairy armadillo after it transforms. I am not really sure what the change is. I guess they're just clarifying the stat line, the base stat line of the token pet. But yeah, the ability is basically the same, takes 1 less damage. I believe that is the same ability that the fairy ball does have currently. So we can just pass over that change and look at yet another new pet added to the unicorn pack. This time we do have a name for it, it's the Pen Gobble. It's a tier 1 1-3 with the ability of gaining 1 attack every time this gains mana. So you might think this is just basically a worse Worf, and you would be correct, but I think later down we will see that Worf has been moved to custom pack specifically, so this is supposed to be like a little bit of a worse, less toxic replacement, which I think is good. The unit itself I don't think we'll ever see any play unless early game mana becomes relevant. Like the only good early game mana pet that we have right now is the Cali Greyhound, which is tier 3, so you don't really have any interest in mana until then. So yeah, not very good, but I think it's a beneficial change to the unicorn pack, and we will start seeing some less toxic teams in the future. Another pet that has been added to the unicorn pet is the amalgamation. It is a tier 5 for 5 with the ability of giving summon pets +1/+2 for every level 3 pet. I would assume that it is level 3 pet that you have on your team and not sold like the Jersey Devil until the end of next turn. So it's basically like a worse turkey, and turkey is pretty good, so having a worse turkey is not horrible, but I think this is just a way worse turkey, and it is also kind of anti-synergistic with the playstyle of the pack. Like most of the time you're going for level 1.5s with Gingerbread Man, or you're going for level 2.66 with Gingerbread Man, so you will have no level 3s I don't believe. So this will most likely be offline as an ability, so you won't really want to play it. But it is replacing Jersey Devil, which got moved to customs, which I think is a good thing. 1 less toxic team archetype for Unicorn Pack for you to face in Arena. So I think that's overall a pretty decent change, but I would like to see a buff on this unit in particular. Now for a new pet for the Puppy Pack, the Orchid Mantis, yet another tier 5 unit, which is 3/5 stat line, and the ability is start a battle, summon 1 mantis with +2/+2 for each 5 HP this has. and it is actually a very interesting pet. It supports the buy-sell archetype, like if you're running owl plus buffalo plus dragon, this is going to be a very nice addition. And if you do get it up to level 3, you can even get a 50-50 summon out of this, which is actually kind of incredible. I don't think the buy-sell archetype needed any buffs for Puppy Pack, because I believe it is one of the strongest, if not the very strongest archetype you could be running. But yeah, it got one regardless. It is basically like a macaque from Golden Pack, but you need to invest a little bit of stats into it if you want to be making it any better. So yeah, very situational, but if you do get it scaled up, I think it can be very strong, and it can basically solidify the dragon build. Now you will have 5 strong units on the team, or I guess 4, because the dragon won't be buffing itself, which is still pretty good. Next up we have the small one, basically a joke on the big one, or the great one rather, a tier 6, 5/8, kind of a different stat line from the 7/13 that we used to know, and the ability is that when it is summoned it deals 2 damage to all other pets, but it deals double damage against enemies, and when you level it up it deals this damage more instances instead of dealing higher amounts of damage. This is obviously to prevent the beluga whale great one combos that are going on. Is this going to completely shut them down, since the small one is basically a weaker version of the great one? I'm not really sure. Like 5 of a kind beluga whale with great ones inside of them, I think still deal 50 damage as a whole, so I am not really sure how this is going to work out, but I'll be curious to see in the future. Next up we see a stat line change on the Alchemides, which is the pet from Unicorn Pack that is tier 1 and gives you 1 mana at the start of battle. We are now going to have it as a 3/2, which I think is overall a pretty good buff. We really hate seeing low attack, high HP in Unicorn Pack, so I think having a 3/2 instead is a pretty nice change. I think it will see more play in the future, and it encourages you to play some more mana pets, like the earlier pet that we saw, the Pan Gobble. So maybe this is the start of the mana archetype, who knows? On the other hand, we see a change on the Axe Handle Hound, which is one of the better and more toxic tier 1s that we already have in the Unicorn Pack. It is moving up to tier 3. It is getting a stat line increase of 5/2. I don't think it justifies the moving up of the tiers. We also get a slight damage increase from 10 to 12. So overall this is a big nerf, but I think it's super justified because the unit itself was broken, especially in customs. Super toxic because most of the time you want to be running copies of your pets regardless, because you want to be preserving a level up for the next turn, for example. Or even stuff like 5 of a kind husky, they work super well with each other, so you want to run them alongside each other, and this just punishes you for no reason. So we see that this has been added to custom packs in particular. It is no longer even a part of Unicorn Pack, so no longer will you be scammed in the early game. That is good news overall. I'm happy with this change. Next up we see a change of the Baku. It used to be a 3/2, now it is a 1/4, which as discussed is a change that I generally dislike. I think it makes the unit a little bit weaker, but now its ability is getting a slight buff. If turn number is even, replace ailments on all friends with +1 HP. Before it was on one random friend, now it gives it to all friends, which can work very well with stuff like the unknown pet that we saw at the beginning of the video, which gives spook until next turn, and the Baku can translate the spooked into 1 extra permanent HP, so you have some form of slight scaling, which is good. Like Unicorn Pack is lacking some scaling, but I don't think that's a major way to scale up. It's just a slight bonus in my opinion. Will that make Baku better overall? I don't think so. I think it's become a worse unit, but I don't mind the change. Next up we have a change on the stat line of the Tsuchinoko, which is the jump tier 1 pet. From a 1/2 it has become a 2/1, which I think is beneficial because it's going to be jumping to the front. You want it to have the highest amount of attack on your team, and therefore I think it being a 3-2 after it jumps is going to make it fit into more teams. After that, we have a change to the Wharf, which is moved up a tier and it is removed from Unicorn Pack. So yeah, no stat line change, no ability change, just move up one tier, which, like, is it good? I don't think I'm ever putting this now in any custom pack, but I also don't play with mana all too much outside of Cyclops. So yeah, I don't think many people are going to enjoy the Wharf nowadays. They are not going to be putting it in their packs. But that is overall good change because it promotes less toxic builds. Next up we have the Chupacabra, which is reduced the number of triggers. Before it triggers 3 times at 3 knockouts, or rather infinite amount of knockouts, but it gives 3 HP in total because it gives 1 HP 3 times. Now it's going to be giving 1 HP 2 times, a very slight nerf, and the stat line isn't changed. It is still a 4-2, I believe, so it's still going to be a very good unit, but you will see later on another change that will indirectly nerf the Chupacabra as well. Next up, another buff to Unicorn Pack. Frostwolf is getting a slight stat increase. From a 1-3 it is becoming a 2-4, and I think Frostwolf is situationally very good in Unicorn Pack already, so taking it and making it even stronger I think is going to push it to be meta. It's going to be played a little bit, and I am very happy to see that because I really like the new ailments, and I really do hope that they see some more play. So Frostwolf W change, we move on to the next one, which is the Lucky Cat. It is changing to be a tier higher. Stat line is the same apparently as it was before, which is 2-3. But the ability is getting a slight change so that it gives you more gold. It does not give you more stats, it only gives you more gold, which I guess it can be useful. I guess you're already looking for enough tier 2 pets with the buff of the Frostwolf. We will discuss some more tier 2s in the Unicorn Pack pretty soon, as you can see down below, so I think you'll be looking for some more tier 2s. And you will have time to look for Lucky Cat on tier 3 that way as well. So I think this is a good change. Is it making Unicorn Pack stronger? I don't think so. It's making it slightly weaker, but it is making you get some more variety in your build, so I promote it. Next up we have the Mothman, which is getting a little bit of a stat reduction. 3-3 is a respectable stat line, so they're bumping it down to 3-2, which is a tier 1 stat line, so hopefully the new ability manages to compensate for that. And you can see it is completely changed. You may have seen Broken Bench whine about this change because he really enjoys this ability, which is dealing damage to pets with ailments on the enemy team. But now it will be anyone yelled ailment, gain +1/+1 until next turn, and it has 3 triggers. So kind of similar to stuff like the Salamander and the Frail Dragon. It's going to work in the same way. I don't know how much you're going to be applying ailments to yourself and your enemy, but I will be quite excited to see that new archetype actually work out. Next up is a big change. We have a change to the Ogo Pogo. The stat line got changed and it is actually a big buff. From a 1-2 it is moving up to a 4-1. So that is incredible. You're already buying Wow Chicken on your Ogo Pogo to make it a 4-2, but now it's going to be a 4-1 by default. So of course they have to compensate that by getting it to have a slightly weaker ability, which is going to be Start of battle, give 1 random being the keyword here, friend ahead +1 experience. You can kind of mitigate that by putting it in 2nd position, and then the random friend will be the frontmost friend like it used to be before, but it kind of limits your positioning options. I'm talking for versus in particular. You don't really care about how you position in arena, you care about building a better team. But for versus, you did have some positioning shenanigans. You could run frontline Ogo Pogo, you could run backline Ogo Pogo, you could basically run it any position and mix up your opponent. Now you're basically forced to run it either 2nd or maybe in rare scenarios even 3rd position. So Yeah, the strong stat line is compensated by the slightly worse ability, but I think it's still going to be an excellent unit that you should be picking up. Next up, we have a nerf to another tier 2 pet, this time from the turtle pack, which is the peacock. From 4 attack, basically on hurt it's going to be getting 3 attack. I don't think that's a massive nerf, like obviously it is going to cost you a breakpoint or two throughout the game, but I think still it has some very nice starting stats. It is a 2-5, it is going to climb up to a 5-5 after being hit once. And it still combines pretty well with stuff like the Dirty Rat and maybe even stuff like Camo that can give it even more HP, so it can trigger its hurt ability even more. So I think it's still going to be good, but I really like this change. We really want to see less HP or less attack gain onto this unit. Next up we have a change on the Yak. I don't really remember this one. This is new level 1 ability is enter. Take 1 damage to gain +2 attack, so it's basically getting double scaling now. I don't think you were taking Yak for the scaling to begin with. Like the main combo in the past was Yak plus Koala because the Koala was giving you +1/+1. Nowadays though the Koala is giving you Eucalyptus instead of stats. So maybe you do appreciate the higher amount of attack, but I don't think people are going to be putting it in their custom pack still. I believe Yak nowadays is a custom pack specific pet, so you do have to keep this in mind. It's no longer in star pack. We don't really care about how it is going to impact star pack. But yeah, let's move on to the next change. It is a slight nerf to the Dodo. From a 4-2 it becomes a 3-2. Which actually I think is a very impactful change, because the game likes rounding down when you have uncertain percentages. So you know at level 1 how the Dodo is giving 50% of its attack to the friend ahead. When you have 4 attack, half of that is 2, so starting Dodo stats are going to give you 2 attack. But now because half of 3 is 1.5 and the game is going to round it down to 1, the Dodo is only going to be giving you a single point of attack when you pick it up, which can cost you a lot. It's 1 attack less on the Dodo and 1 attack less on the unit that you buff with the Dodo, so I think like it is making it considerably weaker, I think, but overall, like if you manage to find some quick scaling on it, it can still be a late game powerhouse. Next up, a change on the fur-bearing trout, once again in the unicorn pack, a tier 3 pet that gives you rambutan. It's getting a very slight stat increase from a 2-2 to a 2-4. Is it going to make any sort of difference? I honestly don't think so. Like at tier 3 most pets are dealing 4 damage anyway, so do you really care if you have a 2-2 or a 2-4? I don't really know. I would have been way happier if they had made it a 4-2 instead, or a 3-3 at least. But this is overall an insignificant change in my opinion. Next up is another big one, this one being the giraffe. So now from end turn the ability is going to become start of turn. Similar to how old hatching chick used to give experience. You're basically going to be always +1/+1 behind because you're getting it 1 turn later. Is it a justified nerf? I think so. Giraffe is by far the best tier 3 you could be hoping to get in Turtle Pack, and this is going to put it in line with the other tier 3s, I believe. Especially after they nerf some of the other strong tier 3s, I think they're all going to be relatively equal in strength. And yeah, overall you're not going to be as happy seeing a giraffe from your level ups anymore, but it's still scaling, it's still an apple a turn, it's just overall 1 less apple if you decide to look at it that way. So yeah, I think it's a justified nerf, I'm quite happy with it. Hopefully Turtle Pack does not become too weak after the changes. Next up we have another, I would argue, buff for Unicorn. This time it is the Mana Hound, which is another tier 3 pet that gives you mana similar to the fur-bearing trout. and this one I quite enjoy. From a 2-5 it is becoming a 5-2. I really enjoy having lots of attack onto Unicorn Pack, because basically the game plan of Unicorn Pack is have high attack units to trade up with your opponent's units, and then you have the Mermail at the back to hopefully clean up. And with stuff like Ogo Pogo, with the new tier 1 3-3 unit, with Mana Hound now as well, I think you can pretty conceivably do that, so I do quite enjoy this change, rather than the fur-bearing trout change, which I really don't care much about. Next up we have the Mandrake, another attack increase and HP decrease. It seems like this will be an attack heavy pack, which I think is a benefit. And the ability is going to basically be a better wording of the ability. It's going to be keeping the same ability as it used to be, just with other wording, more understandable wording, more consistent wording is what I think they're going for. But yeah, overall the stat change is the main change out of this, and I think it's a good one. Like 2-3 you're not really happy with, but 4-1 I can see you quite enjoying on tier 2. Actually Mandrake is tier 3, never mind me. Ouroboros got a very interesting change. It got a major stat nerf. From a 2-4 it's becoming a 1-1, so this new ability better be great, otherwise it will be absolutely garbage. So we can take a look at the new tier level 1 ability, which is Row. Give unfrozen shop pets +1/+1 until next turn for each row this turn. So it's kind of like a scaling capybara. It's going to be giving you +1/+1, then +2/+2, then +3/+3, and so on and so forth. Is it really a good ability? I can see it being a toxic ability, which is what I dislike about it. Like, I can see people running multiple Ouroboroses and getting like +10/+10 temporary stats on their pets. But overall this is like a weaker capybara and a weaker hatching chick, if you want to look at it that way. The stats that you get are temporary, which yeah, until next turn, so they are temporary, you're not getting them forever. It's not as good as the capybara, and on top of that you have to be running a 1-1 on your team in order to achieve that. So absolutely garbage. I can never see you picking any of this up unless you have like a bunyip and you just want to roll because you don't want to do anything better. But yeah, very rare scenario where I can see this being taken, if not even never. Next up is the Pegasus, which is a custom pack specific pet. It is getting moved up a tier from tier 3 to tier 4, which is good, and the stat line is getting a slight bump as well. Pegasus is one of those more toxic units that promote summon builds. It's like a better horse, the triple as effective of horse as horses. So yeah, I am happy to see it on tier 4. It is more comparable to Turkey than horse, to be honest with you, so I think tier 4 is justified. Next up is a big one, the Wyvern. It is getting moved down a tier, which I actually found mind-boggling. Like, Wyvern is already one of the better tier 3s that you're looking for in Unicorn, and I basically put it in every single one of my custom packs. And not only that, I would argue that it's even getting a better stat line. As I said, I am really a big fan of high attack, low HP units, and Wyvern is becoming one of them as well. So now you have Ogo Pogo, you have Mandrake, you have Mana Hound, you have the new 3-3 unit that we don't still know the name of. So yeah, you will be drawing a lot with the Unicorn pack, I think, and that is incredibly good news because the end game over there is absolutely broken, so you will be getting to the end game much easier. The only downside is that you don't have much HP, you don't really have the ability to scale up the Minotaur that well, which is the most broken tier 3 that we have in Unicorn pack currently. So yeah, I am overall very happy with this change. It is still going to be making every single one of my custom packs. I'm going to be taking it a lot in versus. In arena as well, it's going to be making level ups way more consistent. You're going to be finding what you want more often. So incredible change. It might even be true broken, but I can't really say for sure. Next up, we have another interesting change in the Abomination. It is getting a slight stat decrease from 60 to 40, similar to the Parrot, and then considering the ability it also has, I can see it being very similar to the Parrot. It swallows and copies the ability of the leftmost pet until the end of the turn. So now it is not restricted to starter battle pets anymore. It can be like raw pets, it can be faint pets, it can be basically everything. And is it going to be broken in customs maybe? I'm not really sure. Like, there must exist a broken combo with this, right? I think this is going to most likely be getting a nerf, but in Unicorn Pack itself, I can honestly not see it succeeding all that much. Like, it's super inconsistent. The only saving grace of this is basically the fact that you get your higher tier pets on the leftmost side of the shop basically always, unless you roll a slot. So yeah, you will be copying more tier 6s than not, which is good. Stuff like Cerberus is decent, stuff like Team Spirit is decent. So yeah, we will have to see how this performs, but my prediction is that this will most likely be getting a nerf in the future. Now we are moving on to some scaling pets. We have the Dragonfly, which is getting moved up a tier with a major stat increase. And this is a common trend of this balance patch. Many of the scaling pets are actually getting big nerfs, and Dragonfly is one of them. So they are trying to get scaling in line with the other archetypes. They don't want the game to be mostly scaling, which hopefully works out. I really enjoy scaling, that's what I find most fun, and scaling to be more difficult is going to be kind of saddening for me, but I am just hoping that it is for the better of the balance of the game. Next up we have a Hippo. Unchanged stat line, but the ability is different. Now it is getting +3/+3 every single time. It does not matter the tier of the pet that it takes out for it to gain stats. But they did put triggers on the ability. So no longer will you be able to chunk through summon teams only with a single Hippo, because it will only gain stats 3 times, which is kind of sad. Like, Hippo is already kind of getting destroyed by summon teams unless you have a very high stat Hippo with garlic, and this is going to contribute to that. I think this is mainly like a versus change, because otherwise people just take a Hippo and then sweep their opponent if they position it correctly, and this is going to hopefully help prevent that, but I'm not really sure. Next up we have a change of the Hippocampus, which is yet another scaler that is being moved up to tier 5. No change of the ability, no change of the stat line, just a tier up, which I think is good. Like, Hippocampus was way too broken on tier 4, especially when you combine it with the Sea Lion. So now the ability to find it one tier later, I think kind of balances it out, so I appreciate this change. We have the Kraken up next, which is getting a slight percentage reduction. From 20 up to 60, it is going down to 15 up to 45. So 20% down to 15% is not a change you will most likely be feeling most of the time, but when you consider that the old level 2 is basically the same as the new level 3, I think like leveling it up is going to be less worth it, and turning Kraken altogether is going to be less worth it, but this is a change that needed to happen. Maybe even we need to reduce the percentages even more, I'm not really sure, because people, when they are running Kraken, they combine it like with Wharf, with mana pets, or with just generic snipers like Dolphin and Tiger. And what happens is they reduce your 50-50 team down to 20 HP. It's 20, right? Yeah, 60% of 50 is 30, so they reduce you down to 20 HP. And then they just snipe you down with stuff like Mantis Shrimp and Crocodile. So yeah, hopefully this percentage decrease helps remedy that a little bit. And yeah, I can only hope that this is good enough of a change, because if they do end up nerfing the percentage even further, I don't think it will be even worth it to buy a Kraken at level 1 for like a 10% decrease of HP or something. Next up we have Worm of Sand, another tier 4 pet of Unicorn Pack, getting a very slight decrease in stat line from a 3-5 down to 2-5, but the ability is getting buffed. No longer will you be needing 6 rolls in order to get the stat line. Now you need only 5, which makes it more consistent to get it 1 time per turn. And it also makes it possible for you to get it 2 times per turn without any gold generation, so that is the main draw of this. Will you be playing Worm of Sand in Unicorn Pack? I don't think so, but I might be mistaken, who knows. And it still targets the 2 highest tier friends, which I don't really enjoy. I would really prefer it if it was random, because once you start up your 2 highest tier friends up to 50-50, you don't get to scale up the rest of your pets that you have. So this is basically locked to only scaling 2 units on your team, which I very much dislike. So hopefully we see a change on that as well. Next up is the Jersey Devil. With a much needed nerf, it is going up a tier from 5 to 6. The stat line is getting decreased, but the ability remains unchanged. It is also removed from Unicorn Pack, not that it really was good in Unicorn Pack, but I am glad to see it nerfed, I am glad to see it gone. And hopefully we see much less play of it, because Jersey Devil gives strength to the most toxic teams ever imaginable, with stuff like Cerberus and Hydra and Sabertooth and Orca, and the list goes on, and you don't really want to see Jersey Devil on the opponent team. And the fact that it can even buff itself if you buy multiple copies is yet another nerf, so the reduced stat line is appreciated, it makes it easier to snipe. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. Hopefully this is good enough to nerf it, because I don't know what they're gonna do if it continues being overpowered. Next up, a slight nerf of stats on the Kitsune. From a 3-7 it goes down to a 2-7. I personally never buy this unit. I don't think I have ever purchased a single copy. I don't find it too good. Maybe it is good, I'm not really sure, but now it will be less good with the reduced amount of attack. I guess it is justified though, because you're getting so much more attack on so many other of the Unicorn Pack pets, so I guess it's only fair for this to have less attack. But once again, I don't think this is a very good pet altogether. Maybe I'm just mistaken though. Frogman's ability is up next. It's getting a slight nerf. From a +2/+2 to every pet that jumps, it goes down to a +1/+2, the way it used to be. I don't know how I feel about this. When it was +1/+2, it felt very weak, but at the same time, we were comparing it to stuff like broken Jersey Devil and broken Cyclops and broken XP builds all together. So maybe +1/+2 is fair, and we just have not seen it in action as intended. So hopefully this is good enough of a change. I would personally like it to be +2/+1, keeping in line with the big attack buffs to Unicorn Pack. And also it makes like punching through Brain Cramps a little bit easier, which is what you want to see, because Brain Cramp with Frogman is kind of a little bit of a toxic combo. Next up we have another scaling nerf. The monkey is getting a stat reduction. From +2/+3 it goes down to +2/+2. Way back when, actually monkey used to be a tier 4 pet with the same exact ability, but now it's getting nerfed to be tier 5. It's still going to be very good in my opinion, because it is targeted scaling for free that you get every single turn. Dragon and cat will outperform it now, I think though. Like, usually I have this debate if monkey is better or if cat is better. Now I think definitely the cat is better, considering that the cow is not being nerfed. So yeah, I think overall a positive change. Many turtle pack mains will hate to see this, but I think it's for the better. Another nerf that we get to see is Poodle going up to tier 6 and being removed from puppy pack, which I personally find kinda crazy. Like, I guess you do have to compare it to stuff like Axolotl, which is strictly worse Poodle most of the time, so I guess it is justified. But like moving it to custom packs, I think it was fitting pretty nicely in Puppy Pack, but okay, I can kind of see it. I am not happy with it, but I kind of understand it at the very least. Next up is a much needed change to the Rhino. The stat line is reduced. It has by far the best tier 5 stat line. Maybe next to the Crocodile, those two have insane stat lines. But now this is getting a slight reduction. From a 6-9 it's going to be going down to a 6-7, and that combined with the change to monkey, the change to giraffe, the change to dodo, all that good stuff, I think it's going to make a real impact. Next up we also have a change to the husky. Husky, I don't think it's getting a big nerf. I would expect honestly husky to be moved up to tier 6 instead of poodle. But the change that Husky received is that it's going to be buffing 3 friends with no perks instead of all of your team that doesn't have a perk, which you can consider to be like a 25% downgrade, because from 4 units you're getting to buff 3 units now. But most of the time you're buy selling cows, you're buy selling oysters, like you're doing lots of stuff with that free slot anyway, so I don't think you're too mad about this change. I think Husky is still going to be meta, 5 of a kind Husky is still going to be incredible, and it's most likely going to remain the best scaling option for any future weekly packs if it ends up appearing in one. This is a change I was very happy to see. 2 units that go hand in hand, the Tanggernost and the Tanggernost. I think I have even made a video on this couple, and look at this change, it is absolutely crazy. Like, when you consider that all of the rest of the scaling from every single other pack is getting a big nerf, and you see this, the pets are becoming tier 4 and the stat line is getting very slightly nerfed, but every future copy of the other unit that you buy will be getting a +3/+3 buff. So before this was considered to be a meme, but nowadays when you have tier 4 units that are basically just I would say garbage honestly, other than what was it, the sea lion, you no longer have the dragonfly. Like, this competes with stuff like Rootlink for example, so I think this is a very decent change. And the ability to find it 1 tier earlier is actually a pretty big buff as well, so because when you roll for it, it is more likely that you find it, because instead out of 50 pets you're rolling out of a pool of 40 pets. So yeah, that makes it more likely for you to find this, more likely for you to scale up. Will it be custom packs meta? I don't think so, but it will be easier to build a good meme run out of this, which I am very happy about. We are nearing the end of the changes, only a few more left to go. Next up is the fly, a very slight stat reduction. From a 5/5 it goes down to a 4/4, which I think is fitting. The stat line of the zombie flies is 4/4, so this is more thematic. And also I think it is very good that even a dolphin can snipe this, because usually flies are very annoying and you want to be having an accessible counter to them. So stuff like crocodile, stuff like leopard, stuff like dolphin, you'll be very happy to pick up against the fly, especially now with the reduced stat line. So yeah, overall I approve of this change. Let's move on to the next one, the great one. This is an important one actually. It is being moved to being a token pet, and the only way you can access this pet in the future will be from the evil book from the bad dog. So if you want to grind for the ribbon for the great one, now is the best time, because soon it will be impossible to get. Or will it? It say they added to Unicorn Pack, but I don't think they're adding it as tier 6, because they do say they're downgrading it to tier 1. So yeah, I think they're making it an exclusively token pet, so you better get grinding for this ribbon, otherwise it will no longer be possible for you to get. And they're removing it from custom packs, so much less toxicity going on out there, which is good. Next up we have the Komodo, which I don't see any change. I think it's just yet another wording change. The stat line that Komodo gives is the same. It's just a more detailed description, so you know better what's going on when you buy one, which is good. We like more consistency changes. We love to see this. We have the snake up next with an HP reduction. This is mainly a change for versus. There is a thing called the Exodia, which is snake plus tiger plus fly, which gives you a lot of snipe damage, with the snake being the center point of it. And when you see the snake getting reduced stats even below the fly in terms of HP, it's actually very good. It can be sniped by a dolphin with most likely priority. Leopard is more easy to snipe it. Yeah, now like a baseline leopard that deals 5 snipe damage can take this out. You will be basically forced to pick up a mushroom on this. So I think it is overall a good change. I would argue that you would even need a more of a nerf on the snake, make it deal like 4 damage or something. But yeah, I think people are happy with this, or at least happy enough. This is another big change coming up. Now we are moving on to the foods, and we have a new food called the Ambrosia. It is a tier 4 food that blocks 8 damage once or removes a ailment, but I don't see that being displayed right here. Maybe they changed that. For my memory, it is blocking an ailment. Oh, never mind, actually I am blind. It says block ailment right here. Block ailment or prevent a damage from happening one time. So it can work pretty well with a visitor, with the new tier 1 pet, or you can just use it like a small melon to prevent some damage, most likely from snipes. Unicorn Pack is extremely happy to see this. I myself, as a Unicorn Pack main, I am very happy to see this as well. And another change that we see in the Unicorn Pack is the Golden Egg. From the change that it had to deal 5 damage or make the pet sell for 3 more gold, it is just dealing 6 damage instead of 5, so very slight buff and removing of the sell ability, but you will see why later down the line when we get to the magic beans themselves. Next up we have a holy water, which is the food that transforms the bad dog into a good dog that you get from the questing beast, or the alternative will now be to give a friend +4/+4, which, like, you never take a questing beast over mongoose, so you don't really care much about this ability. The only ever reason you take the holy water is for the good dog. So, like, it's a good change, don't get me wrong, but it's just kind of irrelevant in my opinion. Next up is the love potions. The potions basically got a pretty nice buff. From giving the nearest friend ahead +2 HP, it is going to become transform nearest friend ahead to this at level 1. So you basically, the objective of this is getting a good tier 6 unit, getting a high stat low tier unit, and putting a love potion onto the tier 6, so you can transform the tier 1 unit into the copy of the tier 6 unit and get all the benefits. And don't forget, this is a tier 1 food that we are talking about. This is extremely good. I can see a lot of use cases for this, and as a whole I'm very happy with this change. Like, 2 HP most of the time is irrelevant. I almost never buy love potions, but this will make me start looking out for love potions more, which is good. Next up is the health potion, which gives the back most friendly pet 3 HP. Um, I think this may be a nerf overall because, like, the main combo with this is you put it on a Minotaur so you can shoot it up to 5 HP so that it cannot be sniped by dolphins. Now you can no longer do that, but you can buy multiple health potions to stack onto a single pet. Is that good? I don't really know. I don't think so, but it can be good, and I am very excited to be proven wrong in the future. Next up, we have the removal of Croissant from Puppy Pack, which is once again unfortunate, another nerf to scaling. You basically, like in versus, you take this every single time. In arena, you take this from time to time, but no longer do you have the option to do that. Coke is going to be very sad at this change. He's the one person who taught me that you always take Croissant, you always stack up to 21 attack. Now you can do that with even more difficulty because Croissant is gone. Next up we have the magic beans, which are being moved up to tier 5, which is justifying the change to the golden egg, dealing 1 more damage. But on top of that, it will also increase sell value by 4 instead of just 3. So yeah, they're making it 2 separate abilities. Like upon the transformation of the magic beans to the golden egg is when you will be getting your extra gold. And this is being done mainly to prevent the combo with the seagull, where you get the golden egg on the seagull and then the seagull transfers it onto like stuff like panther and oyster, and you get to buy sell for net gold gain, and you can combine it with stuff like dragon and starfish and all that good stuff to get 50-50 stats. Like very toxic combo. This is their way of getting the combo away from the game, which I quite enjoy. For goat as well can work out pretty well with stuff like potentially chipmunk. I'm not really sure how the interaction with the chipmunk is going to work. I'm going to be very happy to check out for myself in the future. But let's close this off by going over the Yggdrasil fruit. The goats are getting buffed to 5-5, so for a tier 6 food you get 2 5-5 summons, which is overall 10-10 worth of stats. Very good change. I think it justifies the moving up of the tiers, and it is also being removed from Unicorn Pack. Not that you really care about having it in Unicorn Pack, but now you no longer even have it, so that is a good thing. I like this change. And to finish off, we have the Cornucopia, a very nice quality of life change, which we don't really get to see this now. Old ability, choose one free tier 6 food to stock from all the packs. New ability reads the same, but basically old ability you had 2 selections, and the new ability you have a choice of 3 instead. So very good change, making it more likely for you to find the stuff that you need. Like sometimes I am desperate to find melon or pita bread or any kind of protective equipment. This is going to be making it more likely for you to do so. Even stuff like celery or pretzel or any kind of situational food you will be more likely to find, and you'll be very happy to put Cornucopia in your pack now. So yeah, these are the balance changes. It took a lot of effort to cover them all, so I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you do, I really hope that you like, sub, do all the generic stuff, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.